Welcome to Audition Talks. Our guest today is the cellist of renowned Kuss Quartet, Mikael Hakhnazaryan. I'm really looking forward to this episode, and I find what Mikael has to share with us today is going to bring a different view on how to approach a musical piece and how to decode the message a composer wanted to transmit. I was quite impressed with how he worked with the score, and I absolutely wanted you to see it. Hi Mika, thank you for joining us today at Audition Talks. I would like to start with the topic we were discussing the other day about the importance of understanding the structure of a musical piece to find out the message a composer wrote in the form of a music, to somehow decode what the composer wanted to transmit to the listener. I found our discussion so interesting because we don't hear often teachers talk about it, and I asked you if you could share your knowledge with us here to show musicians your approach when you start working on a piece. To be successful with their auditions, musicians have to somehow grab the jury's attention, and one of the ways to do that is with the interpretation, of course. And for today, I asked you if you could share with us your approach on working on a piece, and as an example, we decided to take Mozart's Fifth Violin Concerto. I think it is going to be very interesting to get a perspective of a cellist about the violin piece. This is a very interesting angle to look at from a point of view of a musician who plays a different instrument and won't bother with technical aspects of the violin.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me to share some thoughts. Your last phrase is the hint for the whole discussion. Me being not a violinist, I have to spend so much time looking at the score to simply understand what the other voices are doing. And obviously, as a cellist, I very much follow the bass line, which is the foundation, basically, of any music, any score. And obviously, I would like to share this kind of work with younger people who are preparing themselves for the audition, because I think the one who will make a difference, the one performance that can make a difference, is the one that will make you as a listener feel that the person really knows the full score, knows exactly what the other voices are doing, what other instruments are playing, and how they affect, let's say, the solo part, whatever instrument it plays. But in this case, we will speak about violin concerto. And so the complete picture of the score is very audible. You as a listener on the other side, as a jury or as just a concert visitor, you immediately notice whether this person, whether it's 5 bars or 10 bars or just one movement of concerto, you know exactly if the person knows the whole composition, the surrounding, let's say, of his so-called solo part or melody. And it would be maybe interesting, as you say, for me, from a bass perspective, to look a little bit closer to these very famous concertos, which sometimes famous, I mean by the pieces which are played so often, and often played in a very similar manner, which in a way influences us. I can imagine it. Of course, same goes for the cellist or for the pianist. We used to hear certain recordings. We like some of them, some less, but we are in a way influenced. And it would be so necessary and basically crucial to have your own opinion on the piece you play. And as we said, this might make a big difference. So I would invite you maybe to look a little bit from a different perspective to the pieces that we are preparing for the audition specifically.
Great. Let's get into the score. Great. Yeah, we are really looking forward to see.
Let's try. So here we are with this wonderful concerto. Before you start working on any piece, get first of all one overview, let's say at least for one movement, that you see a little bit the progression of the piece, how the piece is constructed. Don't think of, anyway, I'm going to play only the exposition and maybe the cadenza, because as we said, you can immediately hear if the person knows what's going on in the entire piece and how the movements are affecting, how the motifs are affecting each other, etc., etc. So here we are in wonderful A major. I think you should make your mind, also make up your mind what kind of mood A major is for you. It can be very individual, but it's good if it's something very decided for you. If it's something really just happy or sunny, or maybe has something melancholic in it, the tonality, I mean. Yeah, A major, let's say, anyway, it is something very positive and rather uplifting, we can say. Then another very important thing, the most simple steps harmonically are, we have the main tone, and then we have the fifths, the dominant, we have a subdominant, the fourth, and we have the octave. So this is our, let's say, the fundament for the building. And here I would like to point that the step of the fifths in this particular movement is playing very important role. It could be also that it's in other pieces or in other concertos as well. But when you asked me just to look a little bit at this particular concerto, I was really myself very, very surprised how often or how strong he emphasizes this step from A major to E, right? So A and E, this is the fifths. And there is, just for you to understand, the fifths has generally a very sort of significant importance, because there is even a theory, very medieval theory, that every single note, if you sing one note, it doesn't make any sense if there are no other notes before or after, or if the note is not resolved, or if the note doesn't go up or down. And the theory says that every note wants to go down 1/5 lower. So if you sing anything, you can sing a single note, and if there is nothing else coming, you don't know what is this note about. And apparently, so physically, there is even a physical need that the note goes and this makes you already feel, okay, now you sort of understand why this note is there. And you will see now in this concerto, there are lots of things. I mean, just let's take the opening. Wonderful A major. So from the A here, sorry, like this. So our big next step is the fifth. So you aim in these 4 bars. I just have to play this. So you are going to this 5th step, which will become one of the most important sort of elements in this movement. Yeah. Then you have this rhythmical sort of call, let's say, like a trumpet call, yam baba. There are no trumpets here, but I mean, this rhythm is very typical for the, let's say, this brass sort of section, yam baba. We will see later why. Yeah. So, and then it repeats, yeah, the same thing. And then here it's actually surprising how many times he confirms and repeats these fifths. So from here, yeah, again from tim pam, dim pam, and look, we already have this A, C, C sharp, and E. So this is already hidden what comes later, but you know, it's a normal step, 3rd, and then again 5th. Dim, paradim, tididim, tadadam, tididim, tididim, tididim. I mean, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, from 8, we have 7 times. He confirms 7 times this step, that how important is this 5th. and everybody plays the same thing. I mean, this in unisono. This is already not very normal. It's really sort of signal, I would say. So then we continue. It's this is nothing really complicated. He basically introduces in this opening everything, almost everything what comes in the concerto in the first movement. Yeah. So here, one thing that struck me, that often you hear when this is finished here, I always or often think that people play this adagio like completely different new thing, meaning it doesn't relate to what was before. And this, I think, is not absolutely right. Yeah, so we have to find way what kind of timing you do here. It means that you have this. So here he's completely, I think here he's introducing already this motion. Yeah, so he's slowing down without any ritenuto or anything. He slows down the motion. Let's imagine it could also be something like this. But this thing that he's suddenly, the motion is a half sort of tempo slower. A little bit, I call it like a matrix effect. Yeah. Often you hear the fermata terribly long and empty. Sort of everything dies, and then you start the concerto. Of course, we have to say, we shouldn't forget that in the situation of audition, you don't get the entire tutti played by pianist, which is of course a shame, but it's understandable. There is no time for it. You get just 4 bars, but what I was saying before, that we all know how the piece starts. Piece doesn't start from adagio. Piece starts from the very first note. So this is one, let's say, one aspect that you really find a good transition between this allegro before and the adagio. So in my opinion, the adagio should really not sound as a completely new thing. 3, 4, let's say. And then you have your, let's say, opening. How you decide tempo, you can always argue about everything. Adagio in Italian, it means comfortable. It's a comfortable tempo. It's not largo, etc. It's not a very slow, or it's not a slow indication. Yeah, we all know andante is something when you go, and the next one, the slower one, the adagio, if you translate it, it says comfortable. So we should really try to have a immediately very clear pulse. And for me, the pulse comes here. And you start this thing. Yes. So one thing which I often, I'm sorry, this is, yes, exactly. What one hears that, as I said, the adagio is rather on a slow side, how people play, and it takes ages until you get to the end of adagio. So I would recommend to also practice this whole adagio part really a little bit faster, even much faster than you will finally play it, but so that you get an overall feeling that this is one section. This is really sort of kind of recitativo, one could also call it, just made up something. You can make up some, however you want to call this section, opening or recitativo or little aria. It's not an aria because it interrupts and then the allegro comes back. But that is one entire part, and it's not randomly played slow melody where you will be showing off your beautiful sound. Yes, of course, you will have to show the ability, the sound, and intonation and everything, but this is, as we said, this is roughly speaking, is saying it's not my business. Yeah. So again, so we're in A, This is very speaking quality. Yeah? And then, so the fourth step, the subdominant, has the nature of being more introvert. So it's not open thing. So I think it's not correct to play that it closes. Yeah. So, but again, to understand, it opens up very much to the fifth step, to the dominant. As I said, the most stable, the most strong in the tension interval. The fifth is stronger than the octave. Octave is just the repetition of the same note, and you have just the whole range of 8 notes. But here, the fifth, generally, it's a very strong step, as I said. And then the subdominant, which is here, has the nature of it is to close it a little bit. I'm not saying you shouldn't do any diminuendos or something, but I would think it's wrong to play etc., etc. And one, it's maybe not nice to say, but one hears often that this part takes also ages because we think, there is a fermata, etc., etc. But one should arrive to the fermata in the same pulse which you have before. And as I mentioned, maybe not a slow pulse is a good thing because it will keep together this whole section. Basically, the thing is finished here. Could be pom 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 something. Yeah, we're not Mozart, but basically this is where the thing is closing down, finishing, and this indicates for me this it's not finished. It's going there will be a continuation, and we don't know what kind of continuation. Is it going on in andantino? Who knows if there is allegro coming? We really don't know if it's really allegro or not. So what I want to say, almost think of finishing this little introduction or aria, call it how you want here. Of course, you sort of anticipate to this high A, but with the indication that the piece is going to continue. So there is something, and the fermata is only on the last note and not slowing down here and then doing this trill for half an hour, and then this sounds sometimes very slow, etc., etc. Yeah, something like this. And then yes, then you arrive here. You're free. Some people play some cadenzas, some don't. I personally think you don't need to do anything. If somebody asked me. Yes. Any comments or questions still here, dear friends?
Any comments? Not really. We are scotched and we are just listening what you are telling. It's very interesting.
Okay, it's great. It's great and helps very much if there is something. It could be that you, especially you both as a violinist, I would be happy if you argue with me and totally disagree with what I say, because as we say, I mean, there is no right and wrong. Thank God there is no right and wrong. But at least, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's great if there is a very clear plan. And this is very audible. And this is what we often said already. This will make a difference, that you are the one, the person who plays. It's everything in your hand in this moment. That you are directing the time. You know, if we speak about more globally, not in the small details, the difference or the greatness of music or the difference between other types of arts is that we have a timing, and this timing is in our hands. And I think the timing is making all this what we call magic. This person plays so magically, but you cannot write it down. Why so magically? Because the transitions or the connection between notes, between sections, between whatever movements was magical, and made completely sense to you. So this is why I think the connection between opening and the adagio, this connection should be very clear and not artificial. And also this connection here, as I said, should not feel that, okay, this is finished and now we go on with something completely new. It's nothing new, it's absolutely the same like opening of the concerto. Sorry, yeah. You know, the orchestra plays the same thing and now you are the one who, the solo is singing the melody. And yes, so sorry to jump from one topic to another, one theme, just to finish this, conducting or directing the timing is an absolutely phenomenal thing and phenomenal tool, let's say, that we musicians have. If you look at the great painting, the painting has as much articulation as we have in music. Maybe the painting has even more colors than we can ever produce. But one thing the painting doesn't have is the timing. It's there. I sometimes think this is why now this tendency that people do this 3D animating sort of great paintings, it's completely nonsense for me, because why would you animate this? It's just there. So the painter is looking at some paysage, some picture out of his window and trying to put it in a way on the painting so it looks alive. You don't have to reanimate it. But this is a modern times thing. Maybe I sound very old, but what I want to say, so the painting doesn't have this timing, and we have. So this sense of direction is absolutely essential. And we can direct it and we can manipulate this wonderful jury of, I don't know how many people sit from the orchestra, that they are captivated, not necessarily or not only by the beauty of your playing, but more by the fact that you are doing something with them, timing wise, that this is moving you here and there. All right. Of course, one good thing could be, and I think it's allowed, that you play in an audition with your own pianist. I don't know, is it allowed in your orchestra, for example, to bring your own pianist, guys?
Yeah, of course, you can come.
It is.
Yes. If you
Yeah,
don't have, we provide one, but you can always come with yours.
Exactly. I thought this is basically applies for every orchestra. And sometimes it can create little bit this feeling that people will say, yeah, but he practiced more with his pianist, and sometimes we feel uncomfortable with a pianist who is provided by the orchestra. This is really very common, that people say, but the person was not really following my intentions, etc. But if you have a chance practicing with a pianist, that you both do the same kind of work and the pianist knows what you are aiming for, of course it helps. It helps to have this overall good performance, and the intentions, your musical intentions, will come across much stronger, of course, if the so-called accompanist, which is a bad word, the person who plays with you is completely supporting your ideas and just helping you, bringing this over the stage to the listeners. So one of the tips I would say, if there's a possibility to practice with your pianist, and to practice in this way, that you bring out all the greatness, let's say, or special moments of the piece. All right, so we are now in this allegro, nothing complicated, wonderful sunny melody. Wait a second here. Yes, I mean, now we will have to see what you often hear is this, or maybe it's not very clear for many, what to do with this second beat here. You often hear, no? Especially here. This is something I would say, if you have this kind of thing with a arpeggiatura or Vorschlag, it indicates that it's not a weak beat. If it was pam pa, let's say without appoggiatura, it could be that the syncopation has more importance. But I think this little Vorschlag here, indicates us that this is not a weak beat. Yeah? I don't mean that second beat should be very much less, but not more. Now, this is very playful. I think you can hear very well if the violin is playing this very simple descending thing. If he knows that he plays in the opposite direction of this, I mentioned in the beginning, yam babam. This is a clear indication that the first beat is very important. So yam pam pam. If you go to here and not to ta ta ti, yeah, ta ti ta 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 ta. You have forte here. Everything is in piano, and then you have the forte on the first beat. Yam papadam, I think, indicates that it's a heavy beat. Yam pam pa. Again, not much less the second beat, but not more. I exaggerate, of course, but just to make it clear. Yam pam pi, just a descending line. Here, of course, the second beat cannot be weak, because nothing is going on in the orchestra, so you take the initiative. It's a huge step from here, yeah, to this, again this so anything, so not to miss. Again, this is yam barabam, same situation. Yam babadam. So now, again, let's research about this dilemma, first or second beat, heavy or light. You hear sometimes, yes, of course, there are steps, but I think that the interval is important, because you already have played this note. So it doesn't come, for the first time, it comes, so you have this note already. So it makes it clear. Another hint for us that it's not, that heavy beat is not the second one, but the first one is as simple as this. That the first beat with this forte piano has the importance, let's say. Don't get me wrong, it should not be completely exaggerated, everything, but it's audible if you know exactly that you are doing this. So let's imagine if we played, let's say if we play this second beat strong, it would completely stop this progression. This yeah, I think if you play so you slow down if you emphasize second beat. You cannot ignore, of course, this. So if orchestra plays forte piano and then you play heavy second beat, there is no chance you will have a progression. So basically what we need is that we have this progression, and then just the fulfillment of this thing. Something like this. Disagreements? I would be happy.
Disagreements? No. No objections. No
No
disagreements.
objection. Yeah.
No, it's very
Yeah.
logical what you say, and very interesting. We are following.
Could be, because as I said, I mean, it's so fresh for me, and this is probably, in a way, a good approach, meaning that I'm not, as you said, I'm not so concerned about how you execute all of this. And you asked me to look at the score, so it's the first time I'm looking at the score and not just at just listening another recording, which you have all these beautiful melodies in your ear. You don't necessarily need to listen to it again, but looking to it, it's fantastic. So highly recommended to every single person who takes part in audition. that you look at it before you at all start figuring out what finger do you play on which string. Yeah. Again, so same sort of situation. So what often comes, I don't want to repeat myself, but okay, what one hears often that this sticks out very much. Yes, of course, it's an octave. You cannot ignore it, but let's think of when you hear a great singer singing an octave, it's so often that the top note is less than the low one. In a way. So yeah, I'm singing something slow, but as a nature of octave, you go, of course, you want to go up. It's lifting you up, but you don't have to emphasize the arrival point. Because I also think that I change the color, otherwise it's everything the same color. What's important, this we know. This is the moment where it slows down before your adagio. And here, I think what's more important is this conversation. And automatically, it makes me think that, okay, the higher octave is less important. So it's great if let's say orchestra or a pianist played this really in a very active way and not just dying away. Yeah. Yeah. But this, and then you have this while you're playing your appoggiatura. There's another element which recharging your battery. Every time. So maybe it looks, of course, on a paper is too sort of analyzing and pedantic, so pedantical way. But you would hear if the person, if the player is just playing the melody or is really listening to these things, and reacting to it. When you play this, you react to this. And this is lighter. The same thing. Exactly. So just these gestures that they correspond to each other, I think. Same story. So about weak or a strong first beat. Again, appoggiatura is an indication that it's not a light beat. Also, a little other hint, it doesn't stay on the same note, for example, in viola, but there's a jump. And it's not on it's on the first beat, and it's not on the second beat, let's say, in viola. Another little hint, guys, I think, to make sure that the first beat is heavy. Then you have an upbeat to the first beat. Yeah? So to understand this, if we were doubting or thinking that the second beat can be stronger, he could have written this little upbeat for the second beat. You know what I mean? So it could be the upbeat actually then could be here, something like this. Yam parabi, then you say, of course, this is an upbeat to the second beat, but it's not there. So you have parati rampa. This is not necessary because there's, So for me, this is also a little hint that helps me just at least to believe to what I think, or to believe to what I believe, let's say, that the upbeat is to the first beat. So this is then, I think, applies for the whole movement, that, as I say, second beat doesn't have to be much weaker, but maybe not stronger. This is completed with a new material. uncomplicated, but new, let's say, new articulation. And of course, we all know it's unbelievably obvious that this is a question and this is an answer. I don't know how you indicate answer, yeah? Timing, everything is very individual, how you do. The easy, or one of the things that immediately will be very effective if you think that the answer is simply played by other instrument. He didn't write it to other instrument. He could have, but I think then it's he lets lots of room for the imagination. So let's put it like this. This is you, this is answer. Of course. It's very obvious. But I think if this is a different instrument, whatever, let's say oboe, yeah. So this continues as a oboe. I think, because it's not the thematic material, but it's a let's say fulfillment, or in addition to this. This is, and this is, I think, the theme or the melody, or let's say the voice that should be very audible. And this is played by piano or by the first violinist. Because I don't think that this tira, tara, la 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 la, it's not a very rich material. It's just a commenting to this. It comments on what you just suggested. And this is great and playful. And especially this it's much more important, especially in a duo with the other violins, and not this is not so important. It's just ending. And then, of course, you take over again. This is beautiful. This is you. Everything playful. Now, of course, this is the same material. Now this doesn't work here, but just a variation, yeah. But variation in the duo, or you have to play this for the oboe. The one who plays so your variation with this yap pam 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 pam, also not unbelievably rich, but just repeated notes. And Mozart wasn't stupid. He could have written something much funnier here, but he didn't. So basically, how it looks here on the score, that your part, it's just part of the orchestra. I think. And then here, of course, again, you are the front row. You are the soprano, again, playing the main role. And lead, of course, this is everything obvious, this forte and piano. It also feels great if you play this yam pam pam, here, this yam pam pam, this thing. Not to continue with da 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 da, yam pam pam, yam pa, yam pam pam, yam pa. That you have this pause. I mean, like this, we have something very natural. If you know what other instruments are replying, what are they commenting on your playing, and yes, of course, everybody does forte and piano. This is obvious, but often this gets very important. It's a very simple thing. It's another long topic. If one day you want to speak about, do you play it long or short? And there are some historically informed people come and play short. It's basically much simpler than we think. but let's not get into it. But I think it would be nice if this is audible. Yam pam pam la tira yam pam pam tim pa la. Because the syncopation, it also doesn't really come very often now if you look in this so far until where we got. So it's maybe something special. I mean, you look all the time in previous bars, everything is quite straightforward in a 4/4. And if you have a syncope, of course, it indicates that it has some importance. And it's nice if you, exactly as I said, if this corresponds to this. Not too important. Not, I don't know if it's needed. Important or less important. Otherwise, I get criticized. Less. Exactly. So you play this and wonderful to hear that you are enjoying the duo. You know, it's these are very small details, but you will just play. The quality of your playing will be different, even without really thinking. So how do I do that? People hear that the oboe plays something or second. You don't have to do anything. You just have to know it. You know that there is syncope going on. So syncopation always is something which is opposite of being too relaxed. So it provokes something. Pam pa pa pam pam pam. Of course, it indicates you that you go forward. Yam pam 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 ti. And here, this moment is wonderful. Yam pam 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 ti. And everybody, entire orchestra, except the oboes, goes register lower. Everything is low. And let's say, of course, as we all know, and you guys mentioned, we all know this is operatic. Every single note of Mozart is probably operatic. So you have these two voices. Yeah, the soprano, sopran, and mezzo sopran, and the choir is answering. Descending line. Yeah. So everybody descends. Everything is like the choir, as we know in the opera, are sometimes lazy, and there are many people. So it sounds rather so comfortable in comparison to the solo voices. So this is all, of course, you can speak about, as we know, to characters, the quick change of characters on the stage in the opera. This is what we need to know, and we know it, but I think we don't do it enough. And then as a result, it can be very decent performance. And you say, yeah, person played really nice and technically good with a nice sound, but as we said before, so it didn't touch you. You should not overdo. It's also not, you are not in the theater, but you have to communicate with your playing. I think this kind of approach, that people are, that you just simply keep awake the listeners. And it's very difficult, of course, because the pieces are so known and so often performed. Are you here, guys?
Yeah, we are just following you. It's
Exactly.
so interesting that we are just like I'm like soaking everything in me. Very interesting. No, go on.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, lots of minor details, of course, but it's clear. Just the design. Pum pum. I mean, this is clear. I mean, that it is what I mean, that it should not just sound very, very even. It should not be like, yes, now we know there are 16 16s. And everybody's happy because they will think, the jury will think I really play rhythmical, I have a good rhythm. Of course, you have to be in a good rhythm. You don't have to do anything special at all with this, and not showing too much either. It will be then complicated. But as I say, I think it's really audible if you know, if you did this work, what we are trying to do now. yes, wonderful. We know we play it slower, another matrix situation, but you're not alone. That you know that you are playing in a trio with other voices. Somebody is holding you, no problem. That the line will not disappear, but you will play this with a different quality of sound. I think if you know that you are supported in the octave by the other violins. Yes, we're almost there. Where are we? So basically, I mean, it's very rare, no, that candidates get to play farther than the exposition. I guess it doesn't really happen.
Yeah, yeah. In general, yes, we are playing until the exposition, and I think what you told, it's just you told it in a way it's so well told how you told that it's clear how we could actually for me I must be honest, this concerto I never worked with the score like that. I must be honest. And now I'm seeing things that I should have seen before when I was working on it. But even for, I think for musicians, even just watching this, some of them are going to see it again with the score, going much deeper themselves, finding things. But just seeing this, I think what you're showing here, it just gave me so many ideas and things that I didn't see before.
Well, exactly. I mean, you just answered your question about how do you approach a piece that's so often played and heard, and you don't know anymore how to make it so you please the jury. Don't do anything special. Just go through it again. What you just said. Look at once with the score. I mean, we all know. Obviously, lots of people succeeded in their auditions without also looking at the score. I guess it's not a 100% recipe and guarantee that you will. Yes, but I studied the score and I know every detail, but still I didn't get to the second round. One has nothing to do with another. But I strongly believe that your overall performance will be really very different if you then, on this work that we are looking at now, start to applying all your abilities and musicality. And what is the musicality? It's also a very generalized sort of term. Musicality also includes in itself many aspects. Like yes, I mean, if you know how you construct the phrase, in the end, this phrase sounds very, very, very musical, and people who will listen to it, they will say, "This is such a natural music making." This is what happens often to us, that we say, "This person plays so naturally." Again, the example of Steven Isserlis. I remember I was obsessed with his recordings. Partly I still am, but the first time it was still in Armenia, when I listened to the recording with the score, and I have to admit, not the orchestra score, of course. I mean, we never had any orchestra scores at home and internet, etc. But just with the cello part, I was just shocked to see that he is just doing what is in the music. And obviously he knew what is going on, or all these great players, they know what's going on in the orchestra. It was a Samuel Barber cello concerto, not a very significant piece, but quite a well-written piece. And this I remember. And then I looked, I said, he's basically doing what's in the music. And then I later on, and I would also highly recommend not just to concentrate on your pieces, meaning only violin repertoire, but take a Beethoven concerto and listen to somebody's great recording, but with the score, just the piano score. And then when I listened to the Dvorak concerto, cello concerto, again with one of the Isserlis recordings, and with the orchestra score, I just could not believe it. Like, he's not doing anything. He's just reacting to what is happening in the score. Of course, it's not that easy, but as I say, so if you start the work from this sort of perspective, it's also much more fun. And then you look forward also to this technical work to get it really right, to get the sound. And now you want to sound like this, you want to sound like oboe answered, or you want to sound better than the oboe, etc., etc. So I think this is, in the end, we're coming again to this thing that this will or might hopefully make a difference from you and the other candidates who might be very well prepared, but they only prepared their line and they only know, they have no idea that the orchestra just gave you some impulse and you totally ignore. And then you say, no, but I'm the soloist and I decide, and I think it doesn't matter if it's a weak or heavy beat. And yes, Mozart is dead. He cannot tell us, so it's fine. I need to get the job. You still need to get the job, but there's more chance, I think, to get this job if you presented something really fresh and unbelievably natural with all this background or the work that you have done.
Yes, you are absolutely right. What you told about the natural players, some players are, for example, many things that you told, just by singing the dum bum dum. I also feel the same way, right? Without analyzing, you see. So there are musicians who are making it naturally, and when they play, you are just sitting there, and it's so natural, and music is flowing, and you are listening, and you are not bored. And this is that's the thing, actually. What musicians have to, and in saying that, there are the others who are playing, and you are there, and you are getting bored. So it's there. If naturally they can't do these things, everyone has his different ideas about music. Some people are having I must be honest, some people they never even thought. I work with musicians. I know there are some musicians who are they are not even thought to sing, like how it would be. They are just waiting that, I don't know from someone to give them an idea. But naturally, I mean, what I used to do when, together we were students, we were all the time thinking how this could be, like this natural, how it sounds more natural, how a singer could sing this phrase, it's where are we going, where is the line, where is it going, just natural things, And I think what you showed, this is really now the way that the musicians watching this could really, knowing what you told, knowing what to look for, they could have this idea. Some people, they are unsure. It has to be dee-dum pam or dee-dum pam, unsure. But looking what you told, it's very visual. You can see and you can see.
That's the best source we have. I mean, you have a question. If you are not so sure whether your natural instinct is right, the next step or the first step, you just look in the score. You can argue about everything also in the score, but at least we have in this score, let's say, it's not a complicated piece. This is exactly probably this pieces one should research to see, did he write it in half a day, or did he write it maybe, I don't know, before he was just going to meet another girl, or So I mean, looking at this score, it's absolutely uncomplicated piece of music. It's not a late Beethoven where you really need to, and you can argue endlessly. But here, as you just said, it's a very useful information that we have. You just go on internet, not anymore to the library, but you download the thing, you look at it, and you say, this is basically very understandable. And then again, apply all your wishes, your musical wishes, to this information that you have. And then I think this is, as I said, then it's really more fun to start working on it, because you know exactly what you work on, and you are not stuck with this idea that I first have to get the notes right, the information, the intonation written. I think this other way around gives us much more courage. And then in this moment, probably you also, it's just simply much more fun to practice than thinking, okay, there's another 2 weeks left, and I know 80 others who applied for this job. So before you go to this audition, basically you don't want to be there. You want to sleep and then wake up this morning with a contract in your hands. But go for it, let's say, with this approach.
That's right. I'm just cutting you here because for confidence, it's so important. When you know that you found something, you it's yours. Somehow it become yours. It's not just a melody you are playing, but you know what you are doing. For confidence, I think it's so important.
Definitely. So that sort of I really recommend just looking in this direction. And as you also just said, we came also quite late to this kind of work, meaning like me or you, because we were also not encouraged, let's say it nicely, to look in this direction. We were also very much concentrated on individual playing, the quality of playing, instrumental playing. We still had really fantastic time, and as you mentioned before, that we were so curious about things, generally about music. So the starting point was already very good. And this, I think, I don't want to make any difference with the others, because everybody who is dealing with music, I hope they like what they do. But more you know, more fun it becomes.
And yes, when we were, as you told right just before, when we were young, we weren't told how to look for these things in the music, and I think many musicians are in the same situation like we are. And of course, later when we become older, say, our interest is getting more to the music, and we are looking ourselves to see great musicians, to learn from them. I remember once we were with Quartet, we went to Andras Schiff, and at the beginning I was thinking, we are with the Quartet strings players, we are going to Andras Schiff, piano teacher and pianist, and I was completely blown away the way he was practicing, and it was, for me, I completely forgot about technical things. It was just music. We were speaking music. It was so interesting. It was
Razumovsky Quartet was the first encounter for us, after having prepared it in Sion, rather in the way that we're used to work, so technically and with all the good players, etc. And then it was, I don't know actually how we came up with this idea to go to him, because at the same time, if you remember, at the same time in the same week, there was Gerhard Schulz from Alban Berg Quartet. There was Gabor Takar. So all the quartet gurus were there. And we had such a fantastic time with Andras Schiff, spending entire week and getting this inspiration, how he was playing this piece on the piano without any score. And so these are exactly the moments which make a difference, which make a little quick like switch or a push, then that you understand that this is the direction that was missing, or this is the direction that you are interested in. So meeting these kind of people, or listening, because as we said, we were not encouraged to do this kind of work, because I think the teachers we had were also never encouraged to work in this way. So luckily, we were so lucky to meet other fantastic people and to see completely different way of music making. And then this is accomplishing everything. And speaking of this, of course, the one thing doesn't work without the other. What I mean by saying this, you can have a great knowledge and still not being able to play your instrument. So this doesn't bring much, unfortunately. It means, of course, you decide where you spend more time. But what I want to say that this detailed and fantastic work, in my opinion, that you guys do, it's inseparable. I cannot say it's necessary. It's more than necessary, because you, as I say, you cannot separate two things. You know how it's not enough to know what you want to produce if you cannot produce it. So one thing encouraged the other, and then this could become a great result. And then I say, if with this approach that you are already happy dealing with this great music, once you looked a little bit and you got so excited about this, and then you go to like really the homework, like what you do every day, but with the approach that you want to bring now this thing alive. And I think this is fantastic work what you guys are doing to bring all this knowledge or your ideas or intentions to life. Otherwise, it stays at home.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say. It's to have all this knowledge is like a like encyclopedia you have in your head. But if you aren't able, it's of course there are a lot of factors. There is a stress factor, and most of the musicians. That's why actually what we are doing is actually we started from there, because we know I saw personally great musicians coming for auditions. I know them, but at auditions they are stressed and they couldn't play. So even we speak about great musicians, but when I see all these musicians coming there with Misha, we were talking one time. What do one need to make to get successful with audition? It's so obvious. Things are obvious, and this to find out what one needs. We are speaking every time in one of our videos, and in first two videos we are speaking about this. What you need, but the question after comes. Okay, I know all these. How should I go on there and on stage, and how should I make it happen?
In the end, you are standing alone on the stage, and you have to execute something.
Exactly. Yeah, and the combination of that's why we came up with this idea to bring people like you, musicians that are speaking about music, people learning music, they are learning how to make it happen on the audition, on stage, and that's what it is, to be successful with your auditions, and not only with auditions. We speak now music, it's like we speak about performance but mostly for the audition, because
so this is very, very interesting and important topic. I see probably now when I go back to what we spoke about today, I think there's dealing with stress, I think is one of the most important topics that you should guys, or we should all try to find the answers, individual answers, because right while you're speaking, okay, audition, it's a terrible situation because you have such a short time. But I heard from so many people that, I'm talking about solists who played for certain conductors in order to get to know that the conductors hear how good you are, and people who already have certain careers. Same situation. You find yourself in a small room with some famous conductor, and this is a story that I know, with of course no name, that this person said, I played the worst in my life. And this conductor probably thought after one bar, who on earth is this person that has a name and a label and a career? You feel miserable because suddenly you cannot put the bow on your string. So it's another factor. You can feel like, oh, I made it. I have a career. I have a label contract, and I have 60 concerts on my website. And yet you come in a room and you are, I don't know, out of respect, or so this nervosity is with everybody. It follows us all the life. We know all these greatest people who didn't want to go on stage, but people had to push Horowitz to go on stage, and people had to convince Isaac Stern to leave his wardrobe and go on stage, because some people start drinking whiskey before it's a very complex thing. And I think the audition, you have chosen probably the most difficult task, to help people with the terrible situation. And yet there is no other way, meaning we all have to go through the audition.
We have to face stress. It's going to be there.
And yet, yes, not forgetting that it's something good that you are trying to do. Because then you will be, as we said before, you will be happy while you play the most phenomenal music, that you are part of it and you made it there. It's not that you made it to have a job, but you made it to join the others to make a great music together. Maybe sounds a bit too pathetic, but I wish it was. I wish the mentality of also those who already have the job, that the mentality remains like this, is the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
That you don't lose very quickly, or after a certain time. It's very difficult. It has million factors that have to be there you daily need to be inspired by good conductors, by good soloists, or I don't know what, by good colleague next to you, or by good weather, or but good wine the night before. But something has to be there all the time.
Right.
Going too much.
No, that's very interesting. It's like another subject for another video. We will make surely. I think we will have a lot of videos together because there are so many. And about the stress you mentioned before, we are just making now preparing our next video. It's just we are going deeper in the subject of stress, really what's how to deal and all this stuff. And yeah, this is going to be our next video. We are going to put in the description the link so everyone can watch it. And look, with that, I'm really pleased and thankful for you. Thank you very much, Mika, to be with us here to share this information, your knowledge with us. And as I told, we have still 2 more videos with Mika. That we are going to see together. Mika is going to show Mozart's fourth and fifth concerto, third and fourth concerto. Fifth we have already. And by the way, if you have any questions to Mika, if you would like that he analyzes a piece for you, please comment below this video in the comment section, and we will ask Mika to do that when we find the time for it. And it can be any piece. As you see, Mika is cellist, he's making for violin. It could be whatever instrument you play. Just comment below this video. And yeah, and with that, one more time, thank you very much, Mika, to you. And yeah, we see us in the next video.
We keep in touch.
Yeah. Bye bye.